Hey, hey, hey. We're back. We're black. We're brown. Ambition. Ambition.
Ambition,
Ambition.
ambition, ambition,
Ambition. Ambition.
ambition.
Mandra, how are you, Curls Pop? I see the curls is
Tiffany.
back.
Oh, when you don't have time for a full shower, so you just get the girls in front
The
together,
zhuzh.
and we're not going to turn to the side. All right, we're just going to do
No, the
maybe
curls are
like a little partial.
popping.
Thank you.
We are extra brown in the studio today, Mandra.
We
Extra
have some
brown.
company,
We
BA fam.
do. We
Got to
do.
pull out the good china. The
Yes.
good silver, because we have a powerhouse. We have a
Yes.
unicorn. And can I just say the lighting is giving unicorn
Girl.
CEO? I need to know exactly what this whole setup is, because if I can move away from reading Rainbow, like the PBS Kids special that's behind me, and more into like that vibe, I can already feel like a unicorn CEO. But BA fam, I can't wait to tell you about our guest today. Her name is Suneera Madhani, and Trailblazer is, I don't know, it feels like too simple of a way to describe her career, but just get prepared to be inspired, because not only does she found a unicorn of her own, and to be clear, unicorn is when you sell your company for more than $1 billion, right? We're evaluated at that. Did I get it right?
Yep.
Okay. Oh my God, look at me. She reads Robin Hood Stacks. So Suneera not only built and founded Stacks Payments, which was one of America's top growing, fastest growing fintech companies. She's also not done. I mean, that took about like a decade of her time. And now she is on to building her second unicorn, which we're going to talk about, called Worth. She's the first female CEO to lead a unicorn out of Florida. Right? Unicorns do exist, and it's not just gators in Florida. Okay. Now you have a unicorn coming out of it. She's also been recognized as Fortune's 40 Under 40, EY's Entrepreneur of the Year, Entrepreneur Magazine's 100 Most Influential Women, not to mention Inc.'s 100 Female Founders. And our podcast girlies, while you're listening to Brown Ambition, please go and follow Suneera's podcast, CEO School, which is, I mean, honestly, that's how I came to know Suneera.
Me too.
So we're going to talk about all of those good things about Suneera, but we also want to get to know you better, because there's one thing on Brown Ambition that we love to do is take off this like facade of business baddie and kind of like kick our feet up and like take your shoes off and get comfy on the couch and just kind of like open up about what life with these accolades really looks like, and how do you get there, and what's it like at the top.
Well, I just want to say, Mandy, this is not my first unicorn. So as you know, I'm very close friend. No, we're not close friends. Like I met her a few times, and she's really nice. Of another unicorn, Jamie Lynn Kern. She had founded It Cosmetics. She sold it to L'Oreal for like, I don't know, over $1 billion. So I was like, not me meeting another unicorn. I mean, in a minute, I'm gonna have a whole handful of unicorn friends. So
there's
Suneera,
only about 20.
That's crazy.
Wow.
I know.
20 period or 20 women?
20 women that I know of. I've heard, and I want to say hi, everyone. Hello. I didn't mean to interrupt you there, but I'll share
No.
I think Kendra Scott has shared this. I think it's like 20-ish women that have built billion-dollar businesses, and I think it's just a handful, even maybe a little bit less, not just from a valuation, that have actually exited and sold that. So we can kind of talk into we can talk details of what that looks like, but yeah, it's that's why they call them unicorns. And I do
rare.
Like my daughters really love that, by the way. So
well, welcome to the stew.
Welcome. Well, what do you want people to know about you as a person, Suneera?
Oh my goodness, that's a loaded question.
I know.
I just want to say hi. By the way, I loved your intro, like the singing. I mean, this is the coolest thing ever. Can I just also hang out? And I love that you said I could just like take my business baddie off.
Oh yes, please.
Girl, it is exhausting. And I am a business baddie. So that is like one thing I do want people to know. And I think they do know. And it's also definitely like, now we're going to probably get into like inner child shit right away, but it's definitely in my psyche. I'm an immigrant, like daughter of immigrants. So it's like never enough, but it comes intrinsically. Like it just have like so much ambition. This is like what this podcast is about. And I want people to know that I'm just fueled with purpose and fun and life. And I feel so grateful to be in the position that I am today. And I wake up every day understanding my privilege. And even though I worked hard for it, even though it wasn't luck, and even though like all of this, I'm going to share all of the scars that I carry, because I want other women to not have to go through that. And I want to pave the way in that way. But I do also understand that it took a little bit of like, you know, we don't want to get, but like the universe's, you know, grace and, you know, I think my parents' good intentions and all of these things that it took for me to be in the position that I am today. And I don't take that privilege lightly. I wake up every day with how can I, like, I'm put on this earth for a reason, and I'm finding that purpose. I'm like evolving and growing in that purpose, but I do want to live a life of purpose. And I do understand the privilege that I have today, even as somebody who didn't have any privilege, but where I am today, I do know what that is. And I I hope to make a really big impact in this world, and to really change lives, and to really change the trajectory of what business looks like for my daughters and their daughters, and for women everywhere. And so I carry that really deep in my heart, and that's what fuels me and guides me. So I think that's like something that I do want, now that like the guards are down. Like, ambition is a big piece of it, and I don't need it for success or for another accolade or for more money or for success in that way. I'm just really fueled with ambition in a different way, and I work really hard every day to live and fill those shoes, when I could honestly, sometimes I'm like, I'm absolutely batshit crazy for starting another business again that I don't need to. But
right, because aren't you supposed to be on a yacht somewhere?
Well,
I mean,
I-
frankly,
I'm
like,
definitely supposed to be
is
on a yacht
Beyonce
somewhere.
and Jay-Z like on speed dial? They're like, Suneera, girl, where are you? Another one? Come on, it's cute over
I'm
here.
curious, like, what do your kids think that you do? Because I feel like, because how old are your children?
My daughters are 8 and 5, so they're in this like really fun age right
Yes.
now.
So
They're
you
so
recognize
fun.
my environment. You know I have a child.
Are we all moms on the show right now?
Well, my stepdaughter's 17, but I taught preschool for 10
17.
years. So I'm like, I love that 3 to 5 to 6 age. It's just like, it's just,
It's cool.
Yeah.
It's
Yes.
fun. I just feel really happy that I have one drop off and one pickup, because y'all, mom life is really hard.
I
Working
mean-
mom life is crazy. And even with like, it takes a village. I have a village,
Mm.
but I still want to be the one, like there's still like, there's my best title, the greatest title that I wear is mom. And I really, and wife, I'm a great wife too. Those family's really important, and
Yes.
I want to be, I want to be the one. So
That's the
but
one
I
thing
ask
you
for a lot
really
of help.
can't outsource. I mean, you can outsource like the whole village thing, but I get it, because at the core, it's like, yeah, but who's gonna sit on the floor and be mama playing? Play for me, it's monster trucks. For you, may be different. I don't know. Don't want to assume, but like, can it be mama? Like, who else is gonna be that person? I think someone asked us recently, like from one of our listeners, Mandy, like, how do you juggle the business and being a mom, and how do you like deal with mom guilt? And I was like, honestly, I deal with more business guilt, because the kids are the best excuse to just turn it all off. And for
Good
me,
for you.
almost, it's like, I'm like saying it, but I'm like, maybe it's not the best. Listen, I ain't got a unicorn yet. Maybe the secret to having a unicorn is like have them get, no, I'm kidding. So at what stage were you building this $1 billion business? I mean, you have a 5 and an 8-year-old, so that's about as old as Stacks is, right? 8-ish. Talk about, how did you balance it, or what was your version of what I'm going through?
It's super crazy. It's still super crazy. There's no perfect answer. There's no such thing as balance. I think we've like all now come to understand that.
Thank you
like,
for saying that.
That was a bullshit that we were fed.
Yeah.
Like 10, like now we're like in this next decade of like, now we're like, yeah, balance is bullshit. And everybody understands that. We're on that page. Work-life integration is like what the term is. And that is truly how I live my life. But it's a series of nonstop decisions. Series of nonstop decisions that you make, and you're just constantly prioritizing. Like, that's what you have to get really good at as a working parent, as an entrepreneur, in your business, in your life, in your day-to-day, is everything's coming at you at a million miles. There's 1,000 things to juggle. And we live in a society today that is wildly different than it was for, businesses 10 years ago, let alone for families 10 years ago, and 10 years before that, and 10 years before that. We have like, there's just so much activity. Like, even look at the speed at which I'm talking right now. Just slow down. Right?
That's me in therapy. I'm like, I can hear myself.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yes,
Breath.
there's so much coming at us. It's not our fault. Like we are not designed to be this level of species. We're not. I mean, we literally are turning into robots at this point, and we have now robots that do everything. But it's a lot coming at you. You have to slow down. You have to prioritize, and it's a series of prioritization. So that's how I've been able to make the best decisions I can every day. Like that's the truth of it. It's just like you're constantly making the best decisions that you can with the resources that you have. And that includes time and money too, right? So resources are, we only have a finite number of resources. So how you manage that, and time is the most precious resource that we have. So I have become a master at like crazy amount of productivity, how to like really maximize my time, almost like so much so to the point where I'm now having to like, remove those systems and give myself some free space because I became such a machine through my process. And I'll maybe take a minute to share that journey. I started the business at the age of 25 years old. So like people don't understand how young I was. I was working, I graduated from University of Florida. So I've been in Florida for 20 plus years. I'm an immigrant kid. I lived all over. So I lived in Karachi. I lived in Dallas, was like home for us for my first half of my life. I have like the best family in the entire world. We're all super, super close. Dinner around the table, crazy family values, doors always open. And just, it's noisy, it's loud. It's just the world that I grew up in. And it's very community driven in the immigrant community. So it never was like, I always had a million aunts that weren't even like my aunts or my mom's friends and the cousins. And like, I don't even know, like, we don't even call them second. And like, everyone's just a cousin. Like, I don't know. It's just like house full chaos, life full. But it's fun. Like I thrive in that. So I naturally, like, again, going back to like inner child stuff, like I've always been around that chaos. And so to me, I can handle kind of those styles of environments. But I went to 10 different schools in 12 years. Huge part of like, my parents had small businesses. We moved around a ton. And when we ended up in Florida, I was like, I am not moving out of Florida. So I ended up getting a full ride, which was an important part for, I was the first person in my family to go to college. I had to, like, there was like failing was not an option. I got 2 degrees. I got a degree in finance and marketing, although I really wanted to do marketing, but finance was like the better business degree at that time to go get. And so I'm just sharing a little bit of my background and the crazy
I'm
with
loving
you
it.
because
Please don't stop.
it
Also,
defines
University of Georgia. I mean, I just feel like little state school
Bulldog.
girls. Full
Yes.
ride. Full
Full
ride.
ride.
I love
Full
that
ride.
because I mean,
Full
the
ride.
way that I did not have that many student loans, I find that really, really relatable.
Yes.
Yeah. Okay. So you're in
It helped me
college.
start my business because I didn't have loans. Like I didn't have loans.
Yeah.
But did the school thing and always excelled in the things that I did because I had to. And so I was always studious in every club and all the things. I studied abroad. Like I really got to have like that university experience. And from there went on to go work in finance and worked for a payments company and a couple of them, and saw just the need in the marketplace for disruption and innovation. And I've always been, and I think that's the creative in me. And I think most women can identify with that. We're told that we're one side of our brain. I have both. Like I actually am a really great left and right brain. So I have a very strong analytical business, side component to me, but I also have this amazing creative energy, and I'm visionary. I can see things, I can put things together. I'm a problem solver. And when we marry the two, between the creative side and just this analytical side, that's most entrepreneurs who are born, by the way. So like if you have those tendencies of being able to do both, you're naturally an entrepreneur. And so I was like the bad employee. I was like challenging my bosses all the time. I was also like the only woman at the company that was not in customer support or admin. Like there was no women in leadership, no women. And I was on the sales, go to market side.
No women, period.
No women. The world of
gracious.
finance, no women that were not in customer support or an executive assistant or some sort of admin. And this is not that long ago. This is 2010 to 2013 is when I was in like my corporate life, or 2009 to 2013. Not that long ago. Also, I think like 2000 was like last year. So my time sense.
Right. So it was 2013. Someone says 12 years.
Still
I'm like,
there.
get the fuck out of here. Yeah.
Anyway, so long story short, I pitched this idea to my bosses of launching a subscription-based credit card processing system. And it seems so simple now, but most like big ideas are very, very simple. And like, how is nobody doing it? So I had zero desire to be an entrepreneur. All I wanted to do was to be successful in my company. And I was like, look at me being ambitious and putting this whole business plan together. I was pretty much laughed out of the boardroom. I was like, it was like, little girl,
Mm.
we love your ideas. We just, we don't have the resources, the dollars, and this is not going to work. And so I came back home and I like flew back from headquarters to where my family was. And we always have dinner every Sunday. We always have dinner like every day, but that just happened to be Sunday dinner. And my brother was in town he was working out in California. So he had also graduated from UF. He had a degree also in finance. He was working for Deloitte and another startup. Like he's also in like the tech world. And I'm sharing what I presented back. And my dad looks at me and he goes, Sonny, which is my nickname. He goes, well, why don't you just go start the company? And I go, Dad, where do I go find Mr. Visa? Like, where do I even start? Like, it's not like I'm opening a restaurant or, I don't know, like a physical, and I don't even think Instagram like was just getting started. So it wasn't like a digital business. Like, how do I even go find the card networks to go build a payment network? And all he said to me, he goes, you'll figure it out or you'll fail. And if you fail, you can always go back to school and go get your MBA. Like you can always go get a job. Right.
Shout out to Dad.
I know.
Sometimes
Super
when you
shout out
have
to
an
Dad.
immigrant family, I'm just like speaking from hearing Tiffany and so many others in my life. Like that's not always the reaction you get from mom and dad. Like you'll figure it out.
I do feel like I had a very special upbringing of like, that could be a whole other episode. And I'm trying to raise my kids in the same exact way. My dad would pick me up from school. So we had small businesses. We had one in like Dublin, Texas. Like I can't even tell you where that is on a map. We had convenience stores. Like literally I'm like the cliche 7-Eleven kid, like as a brown girl, like as a brown, by the way, those that can't see me, I'm Pakistani. But they're the sweetest, so hardworking. And he would literally pick me up and he owned this, like with a store in middle of nowhere, Texas. And he'd have to go there once a month. And that's like one of my favorite memories. And that's where the home of Dr. Pepper is. And Dr. Pepper is like a really big deal in Texas. And he would like pull me out of school. And my mom wouldn't know. And we had a secret. And maybe she knew. And I just thought like she didn't know. And we'd drive down to Dublin, Texas. And the first thing that we do is go get a Dr. Pepper float. And then I'd go to work with him and he'd go like meet everybody, go pick up the paperwork. This is like physical, like, or you had to like pick up like checks and I don't even know, like, but I've watched my parents work, both my parents. My father passed away in 2020 during COVID, but my mom literally lives across the street from me still right now. And my parents and my family are like, and I work with my brother. So that unicorn company that I was telling you about, that idea, Sal ended up leaving his job. We ended up going at this together and we put one foot in front of the other and we made it happen. That first year of starting the business, we did 5 million in payments on our network, which how to even build it? God, I can't even tell you. And it was by like truly networking, right? Like figuring out, we weren't the tech experts, but I like went to a tech accelerator, which didn't exist in Orlando. So it's not like I was in Silicon Valley where there was like a bunch of tech stuff happening. Like we found our way into every room. And that was the skill sets, the child stuff of like, we moved around a ton. I had to go to all these different schools. So if I wasn't cool or charming, or I'd be like the nerdy kid, or I'd like be left out that year. And so I always had to find my way into like whatever my systems were for school every year. But man,
I went to a bunch of different schools too. And I always think of that now as a superpower that you can sort of, and I'm not surprised at all that you went to study abroad too. Cause like, what's a different country? I've been to a different middle school halfway through the school year. I'll tell you what, that's,
I mean, middle school is a different country. Let's be all the way real.
Yes.
I still want to go back to middle school.
In building this, is there something that like, okay, is there something that you're like, oh, I wish I would have known this? Or if somebody is building now, just, my business is 8 figures and I'm just like, I don't even know. Part of me struggles with, I don't know if I want to do the work for bigger. like because this was already so hard. And so so I always say there's like a mindset shift to go from the next level to the next level. So if you could go back and say, oh, that was the shift I had to make mentally to go from, 7 to 8, 8 to 9 and 8 and beyond. Like, what was that mindset shift that you're like, here's a different way of thinking about it? Because I've heard a lot of women kind of hold themselves back, like, oh, I'm making 300,000. It's enough. It's enough, which certainly it might be enough financially, but maybe there's more good that you can do. Like, what is that mindset shift that we should be thinking about?
You're so smart. I love this question. And I really do. That y'all are so awesome. I don't get to usually be on shows like this with two brown women. So this is like really special for me as well. Okay. So the mindset shift, it's huge. I didn't know I could go build $1 million business, let alone $1 billion business. So one, it's just uncapping that. Like, it's really uncapping that the sky is the limit. You can't even dream of what the limit is right now. That's what's so cool about what's happening in our worlds today. We're the most connected we've ever been. We have access to, like, just business can look different. It's even how the global environment is shaping and changing. Like, maybe billion might not be enough. It's not about the dollars. It's about the scale that you can have with your company. And I would say that most women, like, I support female entrepreneurs like day in and day out. This is like what I love to do, is mentor and coach and support women in business. And the number one thing that I will tell you, I never meet a woman who is like, oh, I'm just starting a business for, like, can I swear here?
Yes.
Okay. I never meet a woman who's like starting a business for, like, fuck's sake of starting a business, right?
Yes.
Every woman that starts a business is like, I was so exhausted from, like, not being heard. I was so exhausted from this problem not being solved for my kids' school. I was so exhausted from this industry thing, like, that we didn't have the customer level experience that we wanted to in our industry. I was so exhausted from blank, blank, and blank. Like, we're so exhausted from a problem that no one else is solving. So we're like, fine, fuck it, I'll do it. Like, that's the, like, we don't go in with like, oh, we're gonna go do the thing. We're like in this, like, okay, fine, no one's doing it, I'll be the one to go do it, because we're the last to bet on ourselves. So that's number one. That was my first, going back to even my story, I had no idea that I would even go start this thing until, for the first time, and I had supportive people around me. But if I didn't, maybe I wouldn't have ever gotten it started, because my mindset definitely wasn't there, right? And so the first mindset is to, like, there's risk taking. Like, we've got to be okay with failure. Like, that is a huge part of doing anything, big and scary. If it doesn't scare you, it's not big enough. And what is the point of life? Like, honestly, I think that that's what I think about every day, is like, do I want to live a life every day of, like, the boring and pressing the button for somebody else, or for even if you're working for somebody else, or doing something that I don't believe in, or like spending my time into something that I don't believe in just to make the paycheck. Like, that's not the life that I want to live. And so I've got to be the one to go take the risk, to go try it, and being comfortable with that it might fail. And that's what men are so comfortable doing. Like, they don't even have the chops. They don't even have the experience. They don't have the resume. They don't have whatever, but they're going for it, right? They're going for it, and they're like, whatever, if it doesn't work out, we'll do it again, or we'll try the next thing. And I think that we as women have to get comfortable around trying, and also get comfortable with failure. And failure does not necessarily mean that it's an everything failure. That just means that that portion didn't work, and then we get to pivot and try another version of it. And we get our mindset. What happens with the first little failure or the first little setback is then we're like, oh, I'm failing. I'm the problem. It's me, right? I can't do this. And then we don't even try to course correct or pivot. So the first mindset shift is getting comfortable knowing that there's going to be a million mountains that you have to cross, like a million. That's it. And getting comfortable and knowing that even when you're going to get to the top, and this is entrepreneurship, right? So every time you're climbing, and then the question you asked me on the advice, the best piece of advice, like the thing that I wish I knew, is that it doesn't get easier. You get better.
Oh, didn't I just say that? I'm about to be a billionaire, Mandy.
I
did at our live chat. I'm about to be a billionaire. Look at me sounding like a billionaire.
I am not a billionaire. I built $1 billion company. I've made lots of money. I've made, and I'm very proud of my success.
Can we talk about that?
Yes.
Let's talk about it.
I want to talk about the money. You sold $1 billion company. Congratulations. That's amazing.
Yes.
Now, what does that look like? Because I have been part of an acquisition, very small one by comparison, but it looked like for me, the founders worked for that company for the next 5 years until they earned out, and then they got to go move on and buy their second homes or whatever. So for you, what did that look like? Who bought
Yeah.
stacks?
Yeah, that's a great
And
question.
yeah,
Yeah.
and
And
then
then were you and your brother, were you like 50-50 partners? And then, you own
me first,
40%
me
of
first,
it.
me first.
Oh, sorry. Yes, sorry. You're right, man.
I'll answer all of it.
No, I know. Like, and then go. I'm sorry. Let me just. I'm second in line.
I love that question though, Tiff.
No.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I'm really transparent about it. I think it's so important. I think the sign back here, it says nothing bad happens when women make more money. That is literally the premise of our podcast. It is so important for us to understand, like, I didn't know so much even as a finance major. So when I like even give that with precaution to all the girlies that are listening, like as a finance major, I didn't know how to go raise venture capital. I made so many mistakes along the way. And I look back and I don't call them mistakes. Like I would not have been able to get to where I wouldn't change any of it because I don't know where the outcome would have landed, but I'm doing it again and I'm doing it a little differently. I couldn't raising capital was extremely difficult. And in order to scale a tech company or to build a business that large, you've got to have capital partners. You got to have dollars that you get investors behind, and they're not going to invest in you for the sake of your idea. So we're like, women do not get invested for their potential. They're
Well, then
given.
how come Uber gets to be negative profit forever and
I
they
can share that.
still? Yeah, like
Yeah,
is that how it was for Stacks? Did you get to? Is it like because you're raising capital and you're not going to be making any money for a while, and everyone kind of gets it and gives you the money anyway?
There's a lot to unpack in venture capital. There are certain styles of businesses that you are funding for growth. So there is that component of it, but you want to build a profitable business. Like you do want to build a solid business. And so there were parts of where the Stacks journey, it took us years to become profitable, but that's not because we couldn't turn stuff off to become profitable. We were funding for growth. But growth also is calculated growth. So I kind of don't want to distract us with like some venture capital, why Uber's not profitable or something like that. But what is important to know is that women are not given investment for their potential. We're given investment, if we're given any investment, which is less than 2% even today in 2024. I started over a decade ago, and those were the stats a decade ago. Those are still the stats today. We are given investment for what we've done. Okay. So we have to go build, like, it's just the same thing. We have to be over prepared. We have to be over qualified. We have to be over whatever. And I didn't have the network. But my business was fantastic. I was focused on sales. I was focused on revenue creation. I was focused on technology build. I built in the right way and I was really capital efficient. Whereas most men, like I think Mr. Wonderful and some of the sharks will also share that women, like there are stats, we actually tend to create better shareholder value as CEOs because we are such good stewards of capital. I'm not, every dollar that I took in is like my dollar that I'm using. So I would never spend a dollar that I wouldn't spend out of my own pocket or make those right strategic decisions for that dollar. But I was able to raise capital. And then with that capital, you also dilute. So every time you do a round of funding, you're giving up almost 20 to 25% ownership. And in my earlier stages, it was even more, right? Like it was even more because like I didn't have a ton of investors to go to. And then I was getting they call them getting discounted because they could, right? So even though my business was great, they knew that there's not going to be a lot of offers on the table. So I was getting lower valuations, even though my revenue was higher, right? And also I have to mention, my brother is brown as well. So we're both Pakistani. And my third partner, like my other co-founder, is Asian. And so like we literally are like a full minority team on top of that. And it was so hard getting introductions. We're not taken seriously. I can tell you the number of times that they thought I was the assistant or the director of marketing or whatever title you want to give me. A lot of scars along the way, but it didn't matter. This is where like the ambition part comes in. Like I will will my way there. Like I will find the way. I will will my way there. I am a maniacal executor. That is something that I've been like, Sal and I are so heads down with execution. And I think this is where like we need to stop getting distracted in the shiny world. If you're going to go build something, get focused, get relentless about it, and get like there's too many shiny objects that come about, especially in startup world. So like the only milestones that matter, like revenue solves all problems, period. Go focus on building revenue, and then the shiny stuff can come after, the PR, the this, the that. I recently lost $100,000 in an investment that I made. I've probably done about 40 plus deals as like just now as an investor. And this CEO, who I'm not going to name, female CEO, just the most incredible publicity, the most amazing, on top of every award. She's got a solid product. She's gotten into every single major, because she's a consumer-based food product, but had gotten into every single Target, Whole Foods, like every brand deal ever. And I got notice that the company is going to get dissolved. And it's not shocking to me, actually, because when you are distracted by all the shiny and then you're not focused intrinsically on your product delivery, on revenue metrics, on customer success, like on the things that matter in business, the rest of it won't matter. And sometimes we are distracted by those things, especially as founder, and especially not especially as women, but we're not given the space. And so we're fighting for our space everywhere. I mean, there's so much to unpack there. But to go back to your money question, right? Revenue matters, focusing on that. Some of the mistakes that it weren't mistakes, but we had to give up a lot more control over the course of it. But I sold to private equity. So the exit took place in 2020. And that was roughly for around like 250 million was the first transaction that we did. So for the exit portion of it. But that doesn't mean that I get exited. So my shares as a founder, exactly what you said, Mandy, I have to stay on, and then I have to roll over my equity, and then my investors get to take liquidity off the table. And that was the first time that I was like, okay, that's not like, why is that happening? And I was able to take off some. So I was able to have like some liquidation, but then I had to roll. And so I had to stay around to fill that and to scale my company
basically
further.
Means that like you've got equity, but you can't really, it's not vested, like you can't touch it.
Yeah. And it's
at that point.
Yeah, my equity was vested, but I can't sell my shares. So like I was still stuck in running the business.
Okay.
And there's all kinds of structures. So there's a million deal structures. When you're at that stage, I don't want people to get just, investors are not bad. I think that there's a bad rap around like especially around investors. You can have really awesome strategic investors. They're just it's business, and you have to know the playbook.
Okay.
And so the more you know the playbook, the better you can play. Like it's a game. And I love sports, by the way. So I'm a huge I just love athletes and that mindset. So you got to learn to play the game. And I've learned how to play the game. So I did the first transaction in 2020. And then that was a 70% sell of the company. So I was able to take off some shares. And then in 2021, I resold the business. We did another minority recap. And so we got to take more liquidity. But here's the thing. I didn't want to stick around. So I had to do rollover. I had to stay for a time period that was like the time period that, hey, new leadership, new whatever. So we stayed for that. And then it was time for me to not be an employee of that company anymore, because that's in essence what happens at that stage. And so post the Series D, Sal and I stayed on for a year, and we also had other ideas brewing of what we wanted to go do. And I wanted to build again. And I was, something that was so important to us. So we built a payment processing company. We onboarded over 40,000 small businesses that were part of our platform. And there just isn't an equitable landscape in financial services right now at all for women and people of color. Even as an institution, I had 40 human underwriters. So there's lots of human work that goes into like onboard a business, for a line of credit, for a credit card, for a loan, for opening up any sort of financial tool that you need for your business to succeed. You need all these financial tools for your business, but there's humans on the other side that are making decisions about your business. And so that's got to change. We've got to make decision-making on data. And so we're building the business credit score. It's called Worth. We want to standardize the way we're looking at businesses. It shouldn't be based on the human. It should be based on the business. We partnered with companies like Equifax. So this second time around, it's been a completely different journey. Investment is on my terms. I get to determine who's on my cap table. I get to determine who are my partners. And so I'm building again because now I can do it with experience. And two, I can make an even bigger impact because now I know what's on the other side here. And it's just still a bunch of dudes, still in 2024, still making key decisions about our whole financial ecosystem. And we've got to have some strong women at the top helping shape the way our economy runs and our how financial structures work. So
How
That's what
do
I'm
they
working
talk
on.
to you different? I remember I had a male business partner, and I brought him out a couple of years ago. And I remember, especially, he was kind of a mentor, especially at first. And he'd be like, Tiffany, we just in the last 2 weeks put 10,000 people into their product. They got to talk to us different. Like, we're not, someone could click on them. They got to talk to us different. And how do they talk to you different now that
I'm
you've
curious
had
too.
this,
Do
like, you know
they?
what I
Do
mean?
you
Like,
feel like you
is
get
it
that
like,
respect?
hello, kid, come sit
Suneera,
here?
Suneera, Suneera.
Yes.
Sunny's coming. Sunny's coming.
Yes. How has that
Yes.
changed?
It's wildly different. It's wildly different. I mean, especially like we're back in our industry, so people know who we are. They know that we've been successful. I don't have to prove my credibility anymore, or my worth anymore, or my track record, right? And so I can pick up the phone and I can actually get the meeting. Like, it took me 7 years to go get meetings like the ones that I'm having now. Like, I can pick up the phone and go directly to partners like, to Stripe and to Equifax and to like all of these major players, to QuickBooks, to the IRS. We have a direct integration with the IRS. Like, I don't even know how I would have been able to do that if you got to have your network is your net worth. That is it. So you've got to keep expanding your network. And that was a big lesson for me. Like, I wish I had, found my way. I think that's the superpower that Mandy and I were talking about, like, into every room. And I think for women, that's the thing that I'm really focused on. Is if you really want to scale your business, you've got to expand your network. We've got to get out of our screens. We've got to get in the room. We've got to get in person. We've got to do the deals. We've got to invest in relationships.
Snap at him, Sonny. Let him know.
I mean, I love
Because
that.
I can't preach that enough. Human connection. Even for a company that's built on data, right? But like humans, there's just something about us. What is it?
It's so important. And we're so entitled in this world of like transactions. Like, everything is so quick, so fast. Not our faults. The world's crazy, right? Not our fault. We were like training our brains for all of that. But we have to invest in key relations, like just investing in people and getting to know people and not needing anything. And then every single piece of the company that I sold to, I met years before. Like, the investors that invested at the later stages, I had met years before. The people that are on my table today, I've had relationship with over the last decade. And so investing in relationships is just so critical. Just a big part of it.
When you were coming up, I know you mentioned you and your brother Sal, you didn't have those connections. So what are some like tips, or what are some, I always think about Brandis Daniels, Tiffany. She has such clever ways of networking, like buy them a Starbucks gift card, or send them cupcakes. Like, what were some of the strategies that you used to make those connections early on?
Yeah, that's such a good question. I have to like think about the early days. I think it was just being kind, like truly. Like, I think that it goes a long way, and I would always be the one to follow up with like a really nice thank you after a meeting. Like, those little things just go a long way, and you'd be surprised on how like we just don't do them anymore. And it doesn't have to be like, even if it's not the handwritten card, but it's like the personalization, even with an email, right? Like, you can tell when somebody actually, you connect with somebody and then you remember something about your meeting, or you thank them later, or you've thought about them after you, like, there's so many things that are constantly going on in our brain, but it's like, oh, hey, Mandy, I thought of you today because I just wanted to say hi and check in, and just like, you came up today. And like, just something as simple as like just connecting, even when we don't need anything, and finding ways to connect. I think those things were something that, I don't know, I did or came naturally. And I think that's like the Pakistani hospitality in me. Like, I'm always hosting, like my house is always full. I want my guests to always feel like their like guests are like next to God in our home. Like, you want people to feel, so when people would come to our offices we'd always invite everyone in, and that's like natural of what I would do. I'd invite their teams in, and it would be like food. Like, I definitely, like, we always have like them fed the whole day, and like really cool food experiences. No, like really, like, not the boring steak dinner, right? Like, getting to know like who's on the other side. And we had such great restaurants here in like our community. I know all the local chefs. And so we curate these like super special, when they like would sit down, and it's like when they would walk into the office, something as simple as like our partner's logo with our logo, right? And then they just see, like, people want to feel, it's the human tendencies. What is it, liked, valued, and loved, or heard, seen, and loved? Like, even in business, people want to feel that way.
Well, what
And
about like
so
when you first started? Did you like join incubators? Did you go to networking
yeah,
events,
I did all the networking
conferences?
events. I was showing up everywhere. I was
Okay.
getting out of I wasn't at home. I wasn't behind a computer screen.
Mm-hmm.
I was showing up to the meetup. I did like everything that I could share my company, and I would wear, it's kind of similar to like Sarah Blakely's, like where she would wear the Spanx t-shirt. I would literally wear my the original name of the company was called Fat Merchant. Long other story. We can literally we can have like a day of this podcast.
No, I love that. It's like the
Yeah,
old
I
yearbook
was
photos you don't want to talk
25.
about.
Yeah. But I would wear like
That
the
merchant.
sticker, like I would literally wear, like you would know that that's me walking into a room. I would do like like the tech meetup like even though there was like 4 people at this tech coffee morning thing, and you like give your little pitch about your company. I think we like need it to be good enough, or we need it to be like full, or we like need it's like what's happening in social right now. It's so disgusting. Like it's so frustrating of like, if I post something and I don't get the amount of attention that I want, then it like needs to come down, or I don't feel validated enough. Like we need to stop with that. We just need to show up, even if it's one person that's like in that coffee shop. And that was that mentality. Like I showed up and I was grateful for 4 people being there that like wanted that more, like that were there together, and everyone's building a startup and they heard my little startup pitch. And that network then grew into the next event that I went to, and then startup weekend, and then going to the Inc. conference and going and I remember I'm actually going to go to fun circle here. I love this story for today. I'm heading to Money 2020. It's I don't know when this podcast is going to be released, but right now it's like the key industry conference for us in financial services. The first year I went to Money 2020, Sal, myself, and Jacques had to share a badge because the badge price was like $2,400.
I love that. Beep, you go.
How did you do that?
Yeah. Oh my God. And we're smart kids. Like, come on, you never snuck into it. Like, we're in Orlando. We used to sneak into theme parks all the time with
Girl, I already know.
One ticket. That's like before
Did you just like sit on each other's shoulders, like with a big trench coat? Like,
no, you go first, and then you go to the bathroom, and you're like, you see me? I'm coming right back, ma'am. And then, girl, Mandy, get with the yes.
Yeah,
I have.
So we did. We shared the badge that first conference. We couldn't even afford the conference ticket, but we knew it was always ROI based. So we spent $2,500 on that badge. We probably had we had one hotel room, maybe a grand in tickets, like to get to Vegas, whatever it was. We knew we had to go get back our 5K, we needed a customer out of that conference, or we needed certain things. So we went in with that mindset. And now a decade later, and I've been a speaker for Money 2020. I've hosted so many things for Money 2020, but I'm coming back for Worth this year at Money 2020. We're making our big debut. We're back. And I got Damon John to come to a luncheon with me, who's the shark, like the business shark.
yeah.
And so him and I are having a fireside chat conversation, and I've invited all of our partners, all of our prospects, and they're coming to my event. They're coming to my event now. And I've got American Express, I've got all the C-suite from Amex to Visa to MasterCard to Bank of America to Capital One. Like everyone is coming to my table. And it really has been it feels like I'm definitely going to cry the entire time up until that fireside chat. And this is what I was telling you in the beginning. Don't forget where you come from, because it's so easy to keep moving up the bar or the ambition. And this is the most ambitious podcast, right? We're all raising the bar, but let's be grateful for where we are today too. And look back on the past. And so that was something. It's show up to shit. Don't worry about who's in the room. Post the stuff. You don't need just do it because you really care, and the rest will follow.
I was going to ask you, what is kind of the wrap up like? I love that. Show up to shit, meet people, make the connection,
you got
head
Tiffany
down,
to say
focus.
a dirty word.
Do the work. I know. I don't even curse like that.
You know what I'm hearing and what I love about this conversation, Suneera, and that's why I don't often shut up a lot during interviews. I'm but I mean, which I probably should, right? Interviewing. But I just recognize so many incredible feminine qualities. And what I love about Brown Ambition and this show is that we should feel it should not be frowned upon or made fun of that women bring these, like, tend to bring these characteristics, this point of view, this, even the way you talk about how you cared about your investors, you made them comfortable. Like, that to me is like, it's mothering. It's like that caring for that caregiver energy that we just have innately traditionally as women. It can be a powerful business tool, and I want it to be celebrated. And to be honest, a lot of the, you know, what my impression is, and you've been in rooms with more, you know, quote unquote successful people than I have probably, but genuine kindness, it goes so far, and it exudes from some of the most successful people, kindness. And that's what I've heard all, like, I know that you're a shark yourself and you get shit done and all of that, but also you have that, like, that hot, like, fiery core of love and family and nurturing. And I just think that is a superpower that I want to celebrate and not feel like we need to diminish it or hide it.
Love that. You're right. You captured that well, Mandy. Thank you.
Thank you. No, you did. I feel like you've gotten to know me, and it does. And sometimes that heart of fire can be, it's hard. You also carry a lot of, like, emotion. I feel like you bring on everyone else's, like, just heart with you too. And you're also, I feel like I'm judged so much for it as well in my world, as much as, like, I think and maybe it's like a story in my head. It, not always, but I'm trying to be better about, like, just valid, like, is it really what's happening, or is this a story in my head? All that inner work shit that we have to do as well.
Yeah. Every day.
But it's hard. It's hard because I do cry a lot. Like, I do get emotional a lot. I'm building again, and it's
Taylor
hard.
Swift
And I
said
have
it's
to be
okay.
like, it is okay, but it's not like, it's still hard, because in the business world, as much as we are like this and we're changing the path, it's different. And in my world, especially in fintech and in financial services, like, it's hard. It's definitely hard. I see the difference. I know what I'm doing is real. I know that people value it at the end of the day, but sometimes I do check myself of, like, when I've learned to just now be in my feminine, whereas before there was a phase that I was constantly just trying to be in my masculine, and I found myself in that because I was surrounded by that, and I have to, like, find, no, this is not who Suneera is, right? And this is who I am inside, and shit's hard too. So being emotional, being that, it's considered passionate, and I hate that word because that's how people want to label it, right? Passion is different, like love is different. Right? Like,
you
it's
don't have to take
human.
passion seriously.
You are being human. And I love that you have allowed us to see that even at $1 billion exit, that it doesn't require you to diminish your humanness. You can do it fully as a woman, fully as a mom, fully as a wife, fully as an auntie, a brother, a sister, or whoever. But, you know, you don't have to diminish the humanness of it for success. So we love to see that.
I get why you're doing it again at first, because I'm like, why do it again? Like, starting another company so so soon after exiting, and I'm like, but the way you're describing it, I completely understand, because of course you would want to. It's like, give me another shot at bat. Like, watch the way I can do it on my own terms.
Yes, on my own terms. Yes.
In a different way, and like that to me is like it just makes sense, and I think it's really healthy, and I think it's exciting. It's very exciting, and I can't
Plus,
wait.
you're like 18, girl. You have so much more life to live. You're like, girl, what am I gonna do? Just sit here?
I want my worth score. How do I? I'm a business owner. I have a business credit card. How does Brown Ambition get a worth score?
Yeah, so we're building the business credit score itself, and we're just trying to empower small businesses. They should know their worth. You should know your worth for your business. The transparency doesn't exist, and you should have all your business financials in one consolidated tool. And so I encourage you to go to worthscore.com and just sign up for the wait list. The score is launching middle of next year. We're already in market. We're selling our the fancy solution to all the enterprise companies that I was mentioning. And if we change enterprise, it'll trickle down. So I'm going to the large ones first. So it's the one to many. That's the lesson that I learned. Yes. I went 1-to-1 last time until I got to enterprise. So revenue can look differently, right? Like, let's think about the one to many. And so I'm going straight to the big dogs in all the banking and like financial services or whatever. And so they're utilizing our platform to underwrite and to onboard customers. So that's the enterprise tool.
Yeah.
But I just want the small businesses to have their worth, to have that transparency, for it to be in your hands. And so go to worthscore.com and sign up for the wait list, and just follow me. Follow us on social. So if you follow Suneera Madhani, it'll link to WordScore, it'll link to the podcast, it'll link to all the things, and just show us some love. Like, that's all
We're
we
gonna
need.
we're gonna link you all in the show notes. So
We're a startup.
Did you hear me
again.
clacking?
My
I already
team
signed up for the
it.
wait list.
So just send us some love, even like the little things, as like just the engagement and the likes and the shares and the hearts do make a difference for small start, or we're not a small startup, but for startups. And so that's all I ask. And follow the show if you loved today's conversation, which I just cannot wait to have you two on. It's a lot of heartfelt, real conversation about business and about life. So I'd love for you to listen to CEO School.
Yes. And we're going to tag if you're listening and you're like, wait, all of, we're going to just, at Worth Score, everything will be in our show notes, where you can follow her on social. You can listen to her podcast as well as get your Worth Score. So yes, all of that will be there. And I love that final lesson that you learned, because I'm just now learning that one-to-one, one-to-one to one-to-many. Like, girl, this one contract is so much easier than trying to convince 30,000 people to say yes. So I love that final little piece of advice. Anything else, Mandy, before we let
I just
Suneera
want to
go?
keep talking, but I know you guys got to go. So
Yes.
bye. I don't want to, but bye.
Yes, Brown and Fish should follow us every week. We are here Monday, Wednesday, Friday. And please go down to wherever you listen to podcasts, but especially if it's on Apple, and leave us a review, because we get to be seen, heard, and loved even more when you leave us a 5-star review. And until next time, I'm not sure where this is going to air. Bye, y'all. Thank you.
Bye. Thank you.